Currently we have 3 models in the new Solitaire line. The S430 is more a classical design, but has a very special and extraordinary solution for mid and high range reproduction. The S530 and the S540 are more advanced speakers, let me say. Their principle offers a solution which is unique. They concentrate the sound in the direction of the listener in a way which a normal loudspeaker cannot do. And therefore we think it's a solution for audiophile people who want to have the best possible reproduction of sound. I personally think that the dynamic behavior of an electrostatic tweeter is superb and cannot be achieved by a dome tweeter, especially at very high levels, especially at very high frequencies. The reason for changing from electrostatic principle to magnetostatic principle is relatively simple. When developing our headphones, we learned a lot about magnetostatic transducers, and we saw that they have a huge potential, and they have in fact some advantages compared to electrostatic drivers. Electrostatic drivers require a power supply, require relatively strong and high electromagnetic fields, which on the other side today require a lot of safety regulations. And of course things like humidity, temperature have a big influence. For our new Solitaire line, we have developed 2 kinds of magnetostatic tweeters. The small one is the Mach 50. It is 50 millimeters high and 25 millimeters wide. And the big one is in fact a line source, which is 850 millimeters high and 25 millimeters wide. We call it the Mach 850. We are using a very thin film as diaphragm, which has nearly 0 mass, and the force is a plane which is very strong, and the movement of the diaphragm itself is very, very small. So we have no distortion problems. The system is extremely dynamic. We can achieve a very good linearity with very special damping measures and construction measures, and the frequency range is above 50 kilohertz, and the frequency response is very linear. And this is something which you cannot achieve with a dome tweeter. The problem is with a classical design that you get a sound field which is mixed with direct and indirect sound. And this leads to a lot of interferences, and of course it worsens the quality of the sound reproduction, especially if you are listening from a bigger distance to such a speaker. The S430, we are using 2 mid-range drivers, and in between we have the new Mach 50. The Mach 50 itself, due to its construction, being 50 millimeters high and 25 millimeters wide, concentrate the energy as well more in the horizontal direction. So we avoid reflections from the ceiling and from the bottom. This concept works great, but of course, as many things in acoustics, you can do it even better. In the S530 and the S540, the idea of a line array or line source is to concentrate the sound in the direction in front of the cabinet. This results in a very intense sound field in the direction of the listener. You can achieve relatively long distances with a very homogeneous sound field up to 6, 7 or 8 meters. We reduce the influence of the room nearly to 0. But the disadvantage is that the area where you can listen is relatively small. And when you stand up, you lose the treble. Our speakers are not made for a party. These speakers are made for people who want to enjoy the music in the best possible quality. The principle of a line array and a line source lead to another big advantage. Because we are using 7 mid-range drivers, it means that each driver only has to move very, very little. We have no problems with high dynamics. This means each driver has to move only very little compared to a single driver. A single driver has to do partly very big movements, which lead to distortion and which lead to the fact that the voice coil may leave the magnet system. This is bad, and this is what we avoid by using 7 drivers. Same thing with the tweeter. It's a line source. That means the entire diaphragm is driven with a constant power, and the movement of the diaphragm is nearly zero. But we can create huge sound pressure level without any kind of distortion. The line source itself is driven on the entire diaphragm. The magnetic force is very strong and we can create huge sound pressure levels, more than 120 dB, without any kind of decoupling. And this means that the sound behavior and the sound characteristics is always the same, independently if you're listening at low levels or at very high levels. These new speakers, due to their principle, offer an extraordinary level of dynamics, naturality, fastness, low distortion, and are able to bring the music directly to the listener in a way you have never heard it before.